Hear me.
Turn it on for far too long. I don't have a sad song that I know. I've been on a long road. I can feel the sun's glow, and I know.
Now, here's a little story I got to tell.
We are back with another one. I hope you're in good spirits. It's been a few weeks since the last episode. We are now at number 60. This is Giants Amongst Us, a place where we share in the unique human experience, and this is where you're going to hear real stories that are told by real people just like yourself.
No matter where you're at right now or how deep a hole there is, there's always a rope to grab. It's just a matter of how you're going to use it.
And the feeling I got after I would write an incident that happened growing up, it was like the world was lifted off my shoulders, and I became addicted to that feeling.
The Jesuits will tell you, give me the boy from 1 to 7 and I'll show you the man. Well, the 1 to 7 for me was chaos, that ended with the death of my very dear brother.
So as always, it is good to be back. If you are listening for the very first time, kick your feet up, relax. Please do stay a while. And I'd like to invite you to check out the website, check out the hometown, check out the home base. And it is there. You can find past stories from past guests. There are articles, there are blogs posted. There's a way to reach out to us, to leave a message, to let us know how you're listening to the show, where you're listening from, what you like about it, maybe things that you'd like to just add to the conversation, and also the other ways that you could reach out to us and find us on a few other social media platforms. YouTube is one of them. Reddit is another. So with that being said, allow me to introduce today's guest. Beami joins us, and he's got a story to tell.
So, my mom was a drug addict and alcoholic and just kind of like mentally ill, not really fit to be a mother. I was put in therapy from the age of 5 to 22, and I didn't speak. I was late speaking. And then when I did start speaking, I stuttered because I was so nervous and scared. And the more that I shared in the sessions and stuff, the more they kind of realized that it was a lot more severe than they actually thought.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, this is Beami and his story. Appreciate you once again for taking time out of your day. You could have been anywhere. You could have been doing anything, but
hey, that's true.
We're having a sit down in a conversation. Appreciate you, man. How's it going?
Hey, thank you for having me. Thank you for, having a show like this that allows these great stories to be told. I think, humans to their core, we're storytellers. Most of our understandings and traditions and things that of our existence, we know because it was passed down orally and through conversations. So appreciate you having me on for sure.
Yeah, this is like the high points of my day right here, to connect with strangers. We were strangers before we had this. We had a couple of correlations offline through the emails, this, that, and the other, but now we're having a direct conversation. So again, appreciate you taking time out of your day. And you're right, you hit the nail on the head. It's really the way that everything was passed from generation to generation was through story, was through these oral tales and testaments, and that's what we're going to do today. And just to break it in, and for starters, if you want to talk a little bit about where you come from and some of your upbringing, how it was for you coming up.
Yeah, so I was born in Austin, Texas, When I was born, like Austin was like, obviously the capital of Texas, but it was like half the people, half the population, less than half the population that it is now. And Austin's small geographically, so it's kind of like a small town, big city feel. And there's a lot of music in town, so I was blessed to grow up around a lot of art and music and just constant activity and stuff to do. But my home life, my family was definitely not the easiest or smoothest or healthiest. So, my mom was a drug addict and alcoholic and just kind of like mentally ill, not really fit to be a mother. So I had two older siblings that were from previous relationships of hers. And then my dad didn't even know I existed for like till I was about a year old. And I'm very blessed because I had the most incredible father I think to ever exist. And he learned about me and basically like fought to get custody of me. So I lived with my mom till I was about 3 years old. And when I was 2 years old, she defied a court order and moved me out of Texas. And we went to Virgin Islands, the US Virgin Islands, St. Croix, where her parents lived, my grandparents. And my grandpa like worked in construction, ran like crane renting business or something. There's very little I remember about living in Virgin Islands because I was only there from the age of 2 to 3. But the few things that I remember are just always seeing my grandpa on a crane. Like that image sticks out. I remember when I first saw Flintstones, like I was like, oh, it's like my family. And yet I don't really have images or full memory of the environment or like where we were, what it looked like necessarily. But anyway, basically like Child Protective Services ended up investigating my mother for neglect and found evidence of neglect and abuse, and ended up bringing me back to Austin where my dad lived and giving me custody to my dad. And so then my dad remarried. I mean, he had a previous marriage that wasn't my mother. My mom and my dad were never married. It was more like a one night stand. Then all of a sudden I exist. And so my dad was the greatest father for so many reasons, but he was, he saved my life. He got me out of that situation. So then I lived with my dad and my stepmom till I moved out for the rest of my time. But I still had to see my mom for like visitation every other weekend for a while. And then when I turned 8, it became once a month. So like I was put in therapy.
Was that court ordered?
Yeah,
or just something
court ordered.
you mutually agreed upon?
Nah, court ordered.
Okay.
And because if it was up to me and my dad like looking out for me, like I wouldn't have had visitation at all. It was really difficult for me as a kid because I was aware that I was a kid of product of child abuse while still being in it and being abused. So my mother was like very violent, and I was put in therapy from the age of 5 to 22, and like I didn't speak. I was late speaking, and then when I did start speaking, I stuttered because I was so nervous and scared. And the more that I shared in the sessions and stuff, the more they kind of realized that it was a lot more severe than they actually thought. And that there was, like I was being told that there were stories that I was being assaulted by men that my mom was hanging out with in Virgin Islands as a baby. And that, and that like I was having a recurring nightmares involving, things happening to me that a kid wouldn't know about. So then every time, like every weekend, my mom would get visitation, I'd be going back like to my abuser, and also like freshly kind of conscious of the darkest and worst of the abuse. And then she'd scream at me and hit me and, get drunk. And then I go back home where I had safety and stability with my dad, and then really struggle. Then when this supervised visitation started, it was because my mom basically started behaving sexually with me at the swimming pool. And then I spoke about it. And then that limited her visitation to where she could only see me if she was being monitored by a psychiatrist, basically. So that was rough because in the visitations were once a month and a few hours. And so I'd go see her for a visit, and then for like 2 weeks the next 2 weeks, I'd really struggle. I'd wet the bed. Like I'd have nightmares. I'd act up in school. I'd hit my dad. And then kind of like settle back down, settle back in, remember like I'm safe, do well in school, do well socially, be nice to my dad, control my body, and then it's time for another visit. And I was in this cycle for years from the age of 8 to 13. And when I turned 14, I was allowed I was the age where I was allowed to go to court and speak for what I want and say like, yo, I don't want to see this person anymore. And I never did. And she showed up to that hearing on drugs, so they were pretty cooperative with me and understanding. And so at that point, it was like a restraining order where she couldn't come within 250 feet of me. That was supposed to last until I was 18, and then when I turned 18, I could decide what to do from there as an adult.
So I'm just curious. I don't know if you know the answer to it, but you said when you were 13 or 14, you were able to speak in court. So up until then, they're not open to hear a child's concerns. Like, say, if there is something going on, and they speak out about it, or they want to voice their opinion in a court where there's people and officials that supposedly could step in and maybe save them from a harmful environment.
Correct. I was never given that opportunity. 14 is the like literal like legal age where it becomes a thing. It was clear and evident for many years, I mean the whole time, that this woman should have never been anywhere near me or any other child or really animal or like something alive. It was clear to everyone at a certain point that that was true. But mothers have strong rights, especially in Texas. And she was very familiar with the system and, you know, being a victim. So she continued to get visitation and continued to be a monster. And it continued to make things really hard for my own progress and development as a human being.
Yeah, I could imagine. That just sounds in itself like how you said, once you start to stabilize a little bit and settle in and, okay, I'm safe here. The environment is not as harmful. You know, I have some security, I have some love, I have some support.
Yeah, and that takes time.
Yeah.
You don't just get that and then you're like, oh, I'm good. Like if it's not familiar, you're not comfortable and not normalized.
Yeah, so eventually you said when you hit 18 and you were finally able to just make up your own choice, I'm an adult now and, you know, I don't want any contact with you because this isn't good for me at all.
That was the idea. That's what I thought how it would play out. But what ended up happening is I finished my freshman year of high school, all through elementary, I was a very violent, super hyperactive, angry kid. You know, I went through a lot of pain and all I was treated with was violence and anger and yelling. So that's how I knew to act and respond to things. And so I was always in the principal's office. I was always suspended. I was always at risk of getting expelled or getting like in public school. But it was also like the more that I stayed away from my mother, the better I did and the more normal I became. And, you know, that's why I was diagnosed with PTSD and ADHD at the age of 5, because my behavioral issues were related to my trauma and my experiences and not like some innate chemical like mental disability within me. But my stepmom, who I haven't gotten into in all this yet, I kind of saw her as my savior. She was like, she didn't hit me, so I called her my real mom. And basically my entire childhood she was lying to my doctors and lying to me and lying to everyone in my life that I was mentally ill and crazy and had a bipolar disorder, and had me on medication for bipolar disorder when I don't have that till I was 22.
She had you on it, so it was like they put I don't know, was there some kind of rule where you had to take it, say even if you didn't want to, you feel you didn't need it, or how does that work out when they?
Well, you know, this is the what's taught me the power of psychological like persuasion and manipulation is like she told me my whole life, like since can remember speaking to her, that I had a chemical imbalance in my brain and that I needed to take this medication to be stable or whatever. And, you know,
So it was through her psychological manipulation that she was able to get you to believe that this is what you
it
needed.
was essential. It was crucial for her that I believe that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have complied. It wouldn't have made any sense. No one would have.
Right.
But I knew that but the thing is, I knew I wasn't bipolar. So her thing, she was aware that I knew that. And because I knew my mom was bipolar, my grandpa was bipolar, like I understand why they specifically tested me for it and observed me for it and considered me for it, and it makes sense, and they should have. But because you know it can be genetic. But through that, the observations with my early doctors, they determined like he's not bipolar, he has PTSD. That's why every time he sees his mom, he gets more crazy, and every time he stays away from her, he improves. So she ran with this whole like chemical imbalance in my brain thing, which had never been told to me by a doctor or anyone else. But then through the years of growing up, like I had like 4 or 5 different psychiatrists or 6 or something. And, you know, I was always told like, oh, there's an issue with the insurance, or insurance changed, they don't cover it anymore, or whatever. Who knows? It could have been they stopped prescribing you, so we found someone who would listen to me or whatever, you know? I don't know what conversations were really happening, but I do know that like my stepmom was extremely knowledgeable about the medical field. She worked in the medical field, and she seemed to be homies with my doctors. And you know, I was super ADHD and couldn't sit still, so we'd go to like once a month to have a checkup with the psychiatrist, and I would be climbing on the chair and not paying attention and disengaged, and with these weirdos who would just be super serious and I'd know are there to make a decision on how much worth I have or something. And then she would just sit there and talk to them. They never would even speak to me. And so she would tell them about how mean I was to her, how horrible I was in the last month, all the horrible things I did. Then, all right, here's another, you know, refill. And it wasn't until I was 22,
Wow.
my psychiatrist retired. He was like, I'm not doing medication anymore. I'm retiring. You got to get a new one. So then I didn't have one for a while. And my stepmom was freaking out about, you need to get a new one so you can keep getting your meds. And so finally I went to like a year went by, and my general doctor was filling them. He didn't want to do that anymore. And so I went to a new guy, and it was the first time I ever went to a therapy appointment on my own without her. And I sat there and talked to the guy. I had been living on my own for the first time in a year. I'd moved out of my stepmom's house and was living with a roommate. And also during that time, I was working at my own high school with special ed, helping teach social skills to kids with autism, the high school I graduated from. And so I was doing well. And I talked to him for like an hour, and he's like, yeah, you seem to be doing really well. I feels like you're taking medication for outdated diagnosis or something, so I think we should get you off. And I was like, you're the first person to ever say that to me. Thank you. Like, I thought so too, but I keep being told I'm crazy. And so I left that day, and I never took another pill. And a year went by, and my stepmom one day was like, oh, are you still taking your meds? And I was like, no, the guy you sent me to like got me off. And she was like, I thought so. And she tried to call my old psychiatrist that she was homies with and like get him to come out of retirement so that he would prescribe me pills again. I mean, and that was a big telltale too. Like, what the heck is wrong with you?
What do you think her trip was with getting you on the meds and keeping you on them?
Oh man, that might be a much deeper question than any of us have an understanding for, even me. I think it goes real deep. I mean, I try not to be too conspiratorial. I mean,
Control?
you know, like I think it might even go back to like, I think she might have specifically targeted my dad, and then to specifically get him out of the picture, to specifically raise me and dictate my psychological understanding of myself and reality. Yeah, for control, but maybe more than that too.
Wow. So I mean, so she tried to bring the one who was retired. She tried to bring the psychologist out of retirement, and he probably was like, you know, I'm golfing now. I'm enjoying life. I'm not trying to come back to.
Yeah, he's like, no, I'm not doing that. Yeah, Yeah, I mean, it was just such a joke when she even said
That's
that.
extreme.
Yeah, it's just another sign from a confirmation for me that I'm doing the right thing, and like this person that I have put so much value in and like attachment to and like trust and belief in is actually like not looking out for me or what's good for me, and actually like might have been lying my whole life. And then I uncovered like a lot, and I went one night and I logged into the computer and I went straight to her email and I searched my own name, and I found emails from when I was in middle school, like a guy that lived across the street from my grandma who was super cool. He started teaching me how to get better at football, and he played college football with Brett Favre, and he was like, "You got a heck of an arm," and like a positive role model in my life. And I used to throw the football with him, and then one day he got cold. He said something about like, "Yeah, your parents, are kind of uncomfortable with me hanging out with you or whatever." And he kind of just shut it down with like, but he said he referenced my parents, but he didn't really tell me what was said or like what really went down, because I was a kid, it was in his place. But then I read the email and it all made sense. I read the email like 20 years later. And then she emailed him saying he's mentally ill, he's crazy, his mom, he comes from his mom, and you should really back off.
Oh,
And I found others related to family and friends and stuff of similar stuff. And I'm like, how much this is just one email, one example. Like, how much did this go on my whole life? And it did feel like I was always let down, because it felt like every time I thought I made a friend, or every time I thought something was going well, like she would find a way to tell me no, like, nah, oh, it didn't work out. Oh, they canceled. Oh, so then I got used to not having anything or getting anything good,
even
or
having expectations, I bet, because you don't want to get let down in the.
right. My expectations were that it would go horribly and be horrible, and everyone hated me.
Yeah.
So then I stayed away from her, and realized how good that was for me. And then I left Texas, but then I entered my first long-term relationship. So by now I'm 25. I've lived on my own for couple of years. Well, I had a roommate, and so then I get my own apartment for the first time in my life. It's just me. I'm on my own. 2 weeks later, I meet this girl who's like a singer in a rock band. We really vibe and hit it off. She comes from a kind of toxic, abusive family like me. But the difference between us is like she's 25 and doesn't know that she's a product of child abuse, where I was 5 and still being abused and knew it. You know what I mean? And so so meeting me was the trigger point for her, where she realized like, oh, like my mom is really mean and my dad doesn't care about me. And I was put through a lot as a kid that was really horrible. And that's really hard to realize. Like I remember when I mean, I understood a lot as a kid, but I was 25 and fully having to wrap my head around the fact that my stepmom was a monster. It was so easy to the outside eye to look at and be like, yo, that lady's messed up. And I had people tell me earlier in my life, like in high school and stuff, you should stay away from her. She's not very good for you to be around. Like, she's really mean to you. And I would make every excuse and every justification as to, yeah, but she's done this for me. And yeah, and then, ultimately it was like, oh man, there is no excuse. Like, there's no justification. Like, there's some really messed up things in here that speak louder than anything. But her realizing that all at once as an adult was really difficult, and I had a lot of empathy for her. But basically, like, she was bipolar. She did have extreme mental illness, and her reaction to the difficulty and challenge that comes with this process of healing from being an abused child was anger and rage and deflection and becoming a victim of it. And that was the opposite of my reaction, which was facing myself, like dealing with the discomfort and just riding the wave and trying to get better and better every day, little by little. So I was in this relationship for nearly 3 years. And what started with me being really at the peak of my life, where I just shed all of my toxic family and all my toxic trauma from my childhood. Finally, I'm a man at 25, ready to go grab life by the balls and go do something with myself. I just started releasing music. I was collaborating with some other known artists. I was performing. Then I entered this relationship, and she was a toxic narcissist. And I'm trying to help this person that I relate to, but that also is super mean to me. And, it was like every day I was violently attacked and physically hit. She would hit me so hard on my forehead, my nose would bleed. It was unfamiliar to me, like to that level, to like love somebody and want to see somebody do better that is so horrible to you. And like when I was with her, the day that I met her was at a concert that she was performing in, and she took a bunch of shots of vodka or something and did a bunch of coke. And that was the last time that she drank or did drugs the whole time I knew her, because I steered her away from that. I got her out of that band, away from those bad influences. And then I helped her record and produce her own album that she wrote herself and played everything herself. So like I was also seeing the growth and seeing her light up with her own worth and potential, and discovering that. And that was beautiful. But at the same time, she's discovering a lot of truth about her own life and her family and her upbringing. And it's really, really crazy. And that ended up spiraling her. And there's so many inconsistencies. And basically, she convinced me, I became convinced, I allowed myself to be convinced that everyone in my life was a CIA agent meant to corrupt me, and like that I had nobody, and like it was just me and her versus the world, and completely flipped my understanding of reality and myself. And it's not like I just woke up overnight and she's like, "Hey, this is what these people are doing," and really it's just you and me. And I'm like, "Oh wow, okay," because I mean that sounds really dumb. I fought her on all of this for months and months, but I also didn't like getting hit, and I knew that wasn't productive. So when I would basically contrast her on anything she ever said, I'd get hit for it. And so I'd be like, "No, that's my sister. That's my friend from high school. Like, what are you talking about?" And I'd get hit. So then I would just start agreeing with her. And I don't know, I guess I was becoming conditioned and normalized to it. And I was just kind of thinking like, she was so insecure and she didn't believe that I cared about her, that I wanted to be there for her. And I was determined to convince her of that, even though that wasn't possible. And I had to learn that later. So I would agree with her, but then she would be like, "Oh, you don't mean that." And I'd be like, "Fuck, man. Like, I've never been a good liar. If I really don't believe something, I can't lie to you and tell you it with words." And so I had to embody it. I had to convince myself that she was right. I didn't have to. I mean, obviously I chose to do all this, but it felt like I did to be supportive to hers. Because basically at one point I literally prayed to the universe and I was like, "She's convinced I'm going to leave her eventually. Universe, God, dad, like I'm not ever going to leave her. I've made that decision. I don't feel like she has anybody. I'm not going to abandon her. No matter what happens or how insane this gets or how dark this gets or what it means for me and my own self, I'm not leaving her." So if that's not good for me, or if we're not meant to be together, or we're not supposed to stay together or whatever, you got to show that to me, and you got to do something or make some sort of change to create that for her or for me, because I'm not leaving. And within a few days, she like didn't eat, sleep, or drink for like a few days. She went completely crazy. She beat me for like 3 days straight, all waking hours, just screaming at me and hitting me. And I was so exhausted, and I just kept saying, "I choose peace. I choose peace. I'm going to go lay down." And I would go lay down and take a nap and wake up an hour or two later, walk downstairs, try to have a normal conversation. She was just totally loopy and freaky and out of it, and would start a fight immediately. I'd be like, I choose peace. I'm going to go lay down. And that response caused her to be like, I'm going to go get some air. Like, she couldn't stand that I wasn't fighting back, basically. There was no response. And so she had to go take that somewhere else. And she said she was going to get some air. And I said, okay, cool. And basically, I came back downstairs from my nap, and the whole house was empty. The car was gone. My clothes, my instruments, my hard drive, my ukulele, my socks, my legal documents, my, pens and journals and paintings and art were all in the car. The house was empty. My dogs. And, she was gone. And I knew that I was basically about to start life over. And the only reason I know it happened is because I got an email that my dogs turned up in a shelter. I was trying to find them. They turned up in a shelter 3 hours away. So I got a ride up to this shelter. I bought a car on Craigslist while I was there in that town and got my dogs out of the shelter and drove back to Austin and restarted my whole life. And I lived in my car, and I worked at a cafe in the morning, and I slept in a parking lot, and I got new socks and new legal documents and new instruments and recorded new music and came back to myself slowly, and eventually started meeting new people, making new friends, finding my worth again.
It seems up until that point, like the three major figures in your life, from your biological mother to your stepmother to your long-term relationship girlfriend, all three of them ended up pretty much using and abusing you.
Yeah. And I was born on Mother's Day, and, mothers and women have had such a prominent, profound, deep part of I don't know, I can't speak for other people. I don't know how it is to live another life experience, but it does feel like we come here with certain things based on our karma or past lives, or or what our soul needs to experience, maybe for the highest growth. And I just feel like there's a lot of lessons for me that have been there for me to learn about life and this life experience and how that relates to women and motherhood. I've had people tell me, like, it's crazy that you still believe in relationships, or like in dating and like women and stuff. Every woman has been done you so wrong. It's crazy you don't hate women or whatever. But the way I see it is like, man, you just, like you said, you just named 3 women. There are 8 billion people on this planet, and I happen to be exposed, and it's my responsibility who I expose myself to. That's one of the great things that I love about being an adult. I always looked so forward to turning 18 so that I could make my own decisions, because I knew I'd make decisions better for me than the people that were making them for me.
And that's key. You said it. You have the responsibility to choose your relationships. There's a lot of people that fall into that. And I was one of those people too. Like, every time something went wrong with me, I always blamed it on somebody else. And it seems like you were saying that with your girlfriend, your past girlfriend, that she ended up with the things, the trauma that started to surface in her life. She started to fall into where you take on that victim mentality. I mean, of course, there are things that happen that are outside of your control, but there comes a time where you do have control of certain situations, outcomes, behavior patterns, or even just the responsibility to correct some things if you see they need to be corrected, and to look inward and see what's really going on and causing it, and not to ignore it. And it seems like you were one of those people that leaned in that direction. But I wanted to ask you, with you going through all of what's that war of the roses with you and your relationship, and the physical abuse, I'm sure the psychological abuse, the emotional abuse, but what do you think it was that you were willing pretty much to die on your sword with it? Like, it doesn't matter what happens, what you do, I'm not going anywhere. Did you feel like maybe there was a way that things can be fixed, and eventually she'll come to it, and you would be able to live and build the life that you hoped for with her?
Oh, with her? Nah, definitely not. I mean, man, the lesson and all that was me learning like self-worth and boundaries also, and self-respect. And also like you can only help somebody as much as you're able to help yourself. And the reality is like, yeah, I probably was a person who was in a position to like be helpful for her, but all the other thing is like you can only help people who are also wanting to be helped or wanting to help themselves too. Help is really support. You help yourself and people support you in helping yourself. That's what help is. And anything beyond that is overgiving, is like you're basically losing. And I was an overgiver. I was a people pleaser. And I'm grateful that I went through experiences that showed me like a big part of where my resiliency comes from is I feel, and I guess, put it on myself, it doesn't exist outside of me, but I feel a huge responsibility. Nobody's putting it on me for me, is what I'm saying. But I feel a huge responsibility to be helpful and useful and beneficial and of service to others. So how can I be useful and be of service and be beneficial to others if I'm struggling through really poor decisions on who I surrounded myself with, or I'm struggling through navigating like really horrendous dark experiences that I went through, before I was even conscious of it? How do I fulfill my responsibility of being useful if I haven't put in the time and the work and overcome and taking care of my shit before I step out onto the platform and say, hey, who out there needs help? I got you. And I feel like I'm reaching a point, I'm not fully there yet, but I am a lot more helpful to people than I was last year at this time, you could say. I can tell that I'm achieving my goals and I'm on the path that I want to be on, and I'm going to get to where I want to go. But the reason I'm going to be in that place where I can kind of take a step back and be like, wow, I'm good. I'm well, I'm taken care of, and I'm good. So let me look around and be like, yo, anybody out there need a hand? But the reason I get there is because of being very disciplined and aware, I think a little maybe wise with how much I give in the meantime, because I still want to be helpful. I want to be useful to the level that I'm at. I don't want to ignore the things happening just because I'm too busy trying to elevate myself so that eventually at one day I can be helpful. And that's something I've really struggled with in the last few years, maybe. It's like I've been a guy on the street with nothing that literally probably anybody else would be helpful to because they had more than me or more stability than me. But also I've been now I'm a guy living in an apartment or, a room and having a job and being successful. So I'm probably pretty useful to the guy that's out there on the street, on the sidewalk right now. I can't necessarily save his life, but I can make his day better today, maybe. Like I could buy him lunch today. Like I would walk around when I was in New York. Everyone in New York is so busy and so worried about their own things that they're doing, and they never look around and see anyone. And I would like go to Taco Bell and buy a quesadilla and buy a couple burritos and then go find someone sitting by themselves on the sidewalk and say, you want half you want half this? I don't need it all. And sit there and have lunch with them because I didn't have anybody to eat with either. But and that's something I can do now. I couldn't do that when I was the guy wanting food on the sidewalk. So then eventually I can level up to where I'm not just able to buy this dude some food and share lunch with them, but I'm also able to build a school or I don't know, like something more grand scale. But I can't wake up today and be like, let me go help the whole world when I'm not able to help myself to the capacity that the whole world could. So until I am and I'm able to provide that to myself, and until then, I'm not able to then look outside that way. You know what I mean? Everything is about where I'm at within, and I'm working on myself within so that I can be the biggest use externally.
That's a righteous cause. And, just to tip my hat off to you for sharing some of those dark places. You took us to the underworld, to the depths and some of the hurt and pain with relationships and with these people in your life that are supposed to be there to support you, to love you, to nourish you, to help you feel secure. You know, you've come a long ways, and like you said, you still have a long ways to go. But considering everything that you shared, you did talk about some of the psychologists and the psychiatrists that you spoke with. But was there certain things that were helping you unpack and to deal with this trauma that you dealt with throughout your years? Were there certain practices or anything that you were doing along the way? Because it seems like you were doing your own self-reflection, and you were trying to, you know, come to terms with some of the things that happen and to deal with them, and not to use these ill coping mechanisms that we can go to, which would be substances or different ways that we try to escape the pain or hide the pain or hush the pain. And was there anything particular or a few things that you were doing in general that were helping you along the way in dealing with your own healing and recovery with all that you've been through?
I mean, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I feel very fortunate because like my what I was born into and my early childhood experiences, basically like what I went through, like from the ages 0 to 8, especially, I would say, or yeah, you could say 0 to 3. I went through the same things at 0 to 3 that I went through at 25 to 28 with a different woman. Like at 0 to 3 was my mother, the first woman I ever met. And it's teaching me who a woman is and what a woman is.
Wow. A 3-year span on both sides of the spectrum.
And then at 25, it's my first like real passionate, committed partner that I'm like view a life with. And they were so similar and they treated me so similarly. But I had already overcome it as a kid, because from 8 to 14 and then becoming an adult and graduating high school and getting through high school, I grew a lot. I faced a lot. And what I was doing, and I mean, I remember being a little kid and laying in my bed and feeling like I had two sides to myself. Not two sides to myself, but two entities within me. Like in therapy, we called it Mr. Anger. There was Mr. Anger, who tried to convince me that he was me and tried to sway me. And then there was me, like really me. And I knew like I'm somebody who wants to be happy. I'm somebody who wants to smile. I want to laugh. I want to feel good. I want other people to feel good around me. And I want to see other people feel good. So anything that isn't me. It's something that was put on me. My mother is not that person. She doesn't want those things. She wants me to feel pain. She wants others to feel pain and suffering because she feels pain and suffering. So anything that isn't me, it was put on me or given to me by people that surrounded me. So I would lay in bed trying to go to sleep, and I always struggled to sleep, but I would have like all these horrible, dark, sadistic, twisted thoughts float into my head. And it was always like practice of learning to replace that thought. Every time I had a weird, crazy, uncomfortable, dark, evil thought, I would be like, oh, no, that's Mr. Anger. Like, what's my thought? My thought is something beautiful. And I would flip it. And then now I'm thinking about something completely different, completely unrelated, but that I love, whatever that is. And then, another weird dark thought comes, and it was really hard. And it took me years. But eventually it became easier for that thought to go away and become the positive thought. And then eventually that dark thought didn't come at all anymore, or he came less and less. And then when he could come, he was fucking weak as shit. And I could just punch him right down and be happy. And then eventually he stopped coming around altogether because I'm no fun for him. And Mr. Anger fucking died. And it became, I don't know, I'm very competitive and I'm very driven. And I very much, once I realized how weak demons are, how weak negative thoughts and entities are, and how much stronger I am it became fun and it became a joke. And that's one thing I really credit my dad with is humor. Humor was the highlight of my childhood with him. He made everything fucking hilarious. He was a goofball. And I realized the reason I didn't realize how dark my childhood was until much later. I knew it was dark. I didn't realize how dark it was. The main reason why is because my dad made everyone seem like a cartoon character and, you know, would make jokes and crack jokes. And so like somebody that's like in horror movies, when the demon's making some scary voice and everyone's getting scared of it, it was hilarious. He did what darkness does to light, basically, and he made it a mockery, a joke. And that's how I started the mentality I started having towards any of that, any struggle. Like it's a joke. Whatever you have to do to motivate yourself, I guess. It kind of can be a little mean, maybe. I don't fully believe that these dark things or people who have done bad things or whatever, like, are horrible, bad people. Like, we all just made decisions based on where we're at. And it's a lot easier to motivate myself to overcome that when I kind of flip the script. My whole life, I've been thinking that I was weak as shit, but you're the one that's weak. You can't even fucking stand to be around me because I'm that cool. Like, I'm that full of light. I'm that dope. Just simply existing, like, you can't handle it.
That's right.
Like, you've been this weak the whole time.
You were being the observer. You know, you were observing, you were becoming aware and mindful. It seems like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you were explaining, like, the thoughts, they would come in, they would invade. And sometimes they're coming, sometimes these things just drop in on us and we wonder, like, where is that coming from? Is it something from my past? Is it something that I surrounded myself with? Is it something in the environment? Or is this actually coming from me? And some people will not take notice of that. They're not sensitive to it, and they're just being pulled and nudged in all these different directions, and they're just a complete mess. But it seems like you were observing, you were aware, and instead of identifying with that thought, you know, you were unpacking it, questioning it, and then letting it pass by and not holding on to it. And then you were activating this side of you, were saying, like, no, this is what I'm about. This is what I want. This is what lights me up. This is what fills me with joy, with happiness. This is who I am. And slowly but surely, that started to be more prominent in your life, and the darkness, so to speak, wasn't able to swallow you alive and just completely claim you and to use your body at, not to say that you have no autonomy in what you're doing, but to the point where now you're doing things that you normally wouldn't do. It's because there is different sources of energies that you allow to just take over your body. And this can come from different experiences in our life. And yeah, that you just started to take ownership of that, and you were aware of it, observed it, and you started to think upon it, and you started to act upon it. And that really, really changed the way you were able to deal with a lot of the dark suffering and the pain and the hurt in your past.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, well said.
Everything up to now is just the whole count of how you talk about the responsibility, the accountability. I mean, this is really what I love to highlight. And this is the power of when people start to take accountability and responsibility for themselves, for their livelihood, for their actions, their behaviors, their thoughts. And you said it, like, you started to feel like I'm not weak, I'm not powerless, I'm activating all of this sovereignty that we have within ourselves, but we surrender it, we give it up, or we allow other things to dictate and to pretty much strip us of that, to where now we're just a puppet on a string, or we feel like we have no control of our actions because there's something, you know, there's something else, there's external forces that are just nudging us and having their way with us. But yeah, I really, you know, I just have to say that because it's good to hear this, and it's refreshing to hear this, and I'm happy, even though we just now met, but I'm happy to hear that you've come a long way, and there's a lot that you've learned along the way too, and I feel that this will be valuable for somebody else in the other end listening to some of your story and even the things that you're involved with. I mean, you had a good setup beforehand, and things just went wrong, and you lost everything. Your partner that you had strong feelings for, and you had grand hopes for maybe building something, until things just completely went sour, and everything was taken from you. And then now you're in this chapter of your life where, like I told you in the beginning, I pulled up your information. I'm like, what don't you do? You're a writer, you're a musician, you're an artist, you do acting. And the reason I had reached out to initially was some of your backstory, and then I listened to a couple of your tracks. Detonate was one of them, and the other one, and I told you beforehand, the lyrics, delivery, everything about it was just speaking to me. It just hit me in a real way, and I said, I got to connect with him and hear some of his story and understand some of your get down. And thanks again for being open and sharing a lot of those hard times and some of the lessons that you learned along the way and still learning. But if you want to talk a little bit about what you have going on now, some of your music or projects or anything that you're involved with.
Yeah, man. I mean, thank you so much for saying all of that. It means a lot to me. I feel very blessed because I've been told I'm very observant. You know, I guess we all kind of have natural character traits or whatever that makes us all different and unique in who we are. I feel very blessed that my life has given me circumstances and environments that have created such amazing opportunities to learn really deep and valuable lessons for the human life experience, in my opinion, that have served me quite well, and hopefully through just existing in front of other people and some of the, you know, art and collaborations and creations and films and TV shows and, you know, music that I get to be a part of, it continues to give people an example of someone out there who can do it and has done it and is doing it and had every reason, every excuse that he couldn't or wouldn't. And you know, my catchphrase is if I can do it, who can't? Because I'm just some guy. But I'm very blessed because, like I said, like the lessons life has taught me, it's very hard to wrap your head around something like my mother doesn't love me, or my mother isn't caring for me healthily. Like that, it's a simple thing to say, but there are a lot of people out there who don't have any idea what that means or what that's like or what that feels like or then what that means, and you have to work on and understand through your life from there. And you know, just every step of the way I've had some deeply traumatic, intense dynamic, largely related to relationships with people, close ones, that I'm able to zoom out. And ultimately, like, it doesn't matter, like mother, brother, cousin, those are titles. Even girlfriend, those are titles. They don't come with set characteristics. It's just identifications for communication. And who you spend your time with, the people you surround yourself with, the people you work with, the people you hang out with, the people you sit down with at holiday dinners, that's all up to you. And I think it's so much more worth it to be around people that feel, I know what it feels like now. It's very clear to me. And this is probably the biggest lesson that I'm grateful for my life for putting me through to learn, is the people out there that make your heart sing and make you flutter and you are almost like surprised at some of the things they say and how well they see you. They're out there, and that's who you should be around. And I have people like that in my life, but I also know that there are many more out there that I don't know, that I haven't met, that haven't come into my life yet. People like you too, Rich. We, like you said, we just met, but we clicked and we're about the same things. And I'm sure that this is far from the last conversation we'll ever have.
Yeah, that's right.
I know that there's the whole world out there of people that want to be around you, want to be around me, and go allow that to happen. It's worth it. But sorry, your question was, what am I doing and what do I have going on? So from 2020 to 2022, I released a bunch of music under my legal name, Steven Strong. And basically, I kind of like the biggest epiphany I ever had in my whole life was in November in 2025, like few months ago. And it was on the other side of that relationship. I rebuilt my whole life. I was in and out of homelessness. And so in November, I finally got my first room that, I covered and I got for myself, and I moved in and I decorated the walls and had my own bed and all that. And it was the first time I've had a safe place to sleep and go back to every night consistently in 3.5 years. So I've jumped forward in leaps and bounds in progress because I've been stewing and grumbling and navigating so much within me for the last 3.5 years of overcoming the horrors, but then reaching a healthy enough place to be like, I got a lot to share. Like I got a lot of art to turn this into. And anyway, in November, I've known for a long time now, like, man, I have it all. Like I do it all. But I still have some hang up within myself. There's some blockage that I haven't been able to identify, that I can't figure out, that I know is there. And I know I'll figure it out in the right time, but I don't know what it is. I've been aware of this for years. And in November, I moved into this place, had 5 days of knowing I'm safe and in my own spot. And also not just in my own spot, but away from a lot of people that I was around, away from a lot of negative influences, away from people that I didn't want to be around, and fully like just in my own space and thoughts. And within a week, I had the biggest epiphany. I figured out what the blockage was. It was guilt. And I wouldn't have called it guilt. I didn't articulate it as guilt, but I realized, and I watched this video of this guy talking about how like the universe is mechanical and there is no good or bad. And a lot of times we limit ourselves with like survivor's guilt. And I was like, survivor's guilt? Like I've heard that because when my dad died, I went through grief counseling and learned about, the grief process and stuff like that. And I realized like, damn, I have survivor's guilt. My best friend died too a few years after that, and we were really close. And I didn't properly grieve either of them because, like when my dad died in high school, my stepmom told me I couldn't tell anybody. I had to keep it a secret. So for 2 years until I was 18, like I acted like my dad was at home, and he was like my best friend. So it was crushing. And it wasn't true either. It literally was just to suppress me. So I struggled to even feel my emotions and have them rise to the surface and process them. I've taught myself to survive, to become numb to everything. So then also like with that abusive relationship I was in, like she was so insecure and so controlling and manipulative and stuff. The main weapon she had on me was guilt. I was made to feel guilty for everything. I held the door open for somebody at a gas station as I walked out, and she slapped me and said that I only held it open for them because they were a woman. And I was like, I didn't even know who it was. Like, that's just what you do. So it was like, I was very social and active in high school. I was playing concerts and I was nice to everybody. So most people had, a decent relationship with me or a decent opinion of me. And so, like I said, Austin's kind of a small town, big city. So I ran into people all the time that I went to school with or that I knew or that I used to work with. And they're always happy to see me. And they'd always be like, oh, what up? And, we catch up. And when I started dating that girl, it was like I'd get hit later because, oh, who is that? So I became so terrified of running into people that I knew because I knew they'd be happy to see me and I'd pay the price for it. I would walk around with my eyes down and my head down. I wouldn't make eye contact with anybody. I tried to be invisible because I didn't want to get hit. So it's taken years and layers of being away from that and regaining my confidence and my understanding of myself. And then finally, the last thing was releasing guilt. Like, what the fuck am I guilty for? I have nothing to be guilty for. And yet I've been holding and carrying so much. Like I was feeling guilty for success. Like every time I something good happened, I got a feature on a song, whatever, it would somehow sabotage it. So I was constantly in these spikes of up, down, up, down, up, down. I'm doing it. I'm really gaining traction. I'm getting an audience. And then, I like, I don't know, got hit by a car and like lost all my money and lost my job or whatever. Like, and it was because I knew it was something within myself that I had to figure out and face. And it was like because I was telling the universe, like, instead of being like, oh hell yeah, thank you for giving me what I asked for, I would be like, oh my God, I'm terrified and I have to feel bad for getting what I want, because every time I got what I wanted, I got in trouble. So finally, just, and not just from her, from my stepmom, from my mom, from other friends, from social groups. And it was just like real deep, real deep for me. And I also watched a singer that I really respect and how she's navigated her career and what she does for others, Jessie Reyes. She said in an interview, talking about how she was like fearful of her own success and she had to overcome the fear of getting what she wanted. And that hit me so hard. Like when I first heard her say that, like I felt it through my whole body and I just started crying. And it's like insane to me. It's an insane idea that I can feel, or anybody can feel, so guilty for getting what they want. And still I struggle with it. But I know that I like released all of it that was put on me. And now I'm living very fearlessly and very openly and very actively, and I got nothing to worry about. And more people need to hear me, so I'm here to be heard.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that sounds like, you can only say so much, and I can only get just a glimpse into some of the things that went on with your life and your story from a baby up until now. But I mean, just from hearing it, like you said, a lot of that it takes time to deal with, to heal from, and to move forward. And you seem to be going in the right direction. And just with the burden, when I said that's a heavy burden to carry, is because I'm going back to how much it seemed that your father was, how important of a human being he was for you. For one, taking you away from your mother, who was she was struggling with her own demons, and she was projecting and letting all of that frustration and whatever she was dealing with out on you. You were on the receiving side of it, and taking you from that situation, but then you losing him. And then for 2 years being told by your stepmother that this is not to be told by anybody. So this is someone that you lost who was very, very special to you. And then you're not to say a word, and you're not able to grieve. You just have to carry and embody all this. And that is one thing that over the years I've learned, just with the body. There's a book, and it's called The Body Keeps the Score. So whether or not, well, we're told a lot of times, even just as a man or as a boy, don't cry and hold your emotions and hide it and don't express yourself. So a lot of stuff that we hold on to, we turn it inwardly, and the body is going to store it. It's tension. It turns into heart pain. It turns into high blood pressure, hypertension, all these different things that we can deal with physically. And for you not to be able to grieve over your father and then losing your best friend, I mean, those are things that are very prominent, and that's a heavy burden to carry, and it is going to take its toll on you. And to heal from that, recover, and to deal with that, it's not going to be an overnight success, and there's not a magic pill to pop and to fix everything and put it back together again. But it seems that throughout the years and in your own doings, you've been turning inwards and looking at some of the dynamics, the inner dynamics in your life, and the complexes and the responses and the way that you react, and just to come to terms with it, or to deal with it and face it and not run from it. And with the guilt that coming up just within the last couple of months, and you now finding that probably, not even probably, but 100% that blockage that was it was keeping the complete flow of energy to run through you fluidly and fluently, and that blockage has been removed. And so now, little by little, that can start to just flow and to just feel your body again. And then you can release that through creativity, because it sounds like that's your bread and butter right there, to express yourself through all these different avenues and these mediums. And yeah, that's powerful that it came to the surface, and then now this is something that you're dealing with. It's the new battle in a way, right?
Right. And it's exciting. It's the first time I've had to face the new life. I feel like I know what true and total freedom feels like for the first time, because I'm free of everything that once held me back, not just some of the things.
Now it's time to fly.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know, also, there's been previous times in my life where I thought, I'm like, oh man, I'm here. This is the moment, I'm about to take off. And I realized, like, just some made up concept in my head. Like, everything is in motion. Everything happens when I'm ready for it. And as long as I just focus on being able to handle the best blessings that I can perceive, then they'll come to me. So today's Valentine's Day. Happy Love Day.
It is, yeah.
So I brought up recording all that music in 2020 or 2022 under my legal name, because basically I went back and listened to some of them, and I picked out highlights and I remastered some of those songs. And I found it pretty interesting because I wrote these songs very much with these days in mind. Even though I wrote them, 4 or 5 years ago, it was very much with 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028 in mind. Because in 2021, 2020, I had a wave wash over me where I felt like 2025 was of vital importance to the world and to humanity and to life, and to my own life specifically as well. Then I found out, oh, that's the year I turned 30. So I asked the universe, like, I want to be in a position where I know my career path. I know what I'm doing with myself and my life. I'm stable and going in the direction that my life is meant for by the time I'm 30, by 2025. And in a way, I realized now, I was asking the universe, all right, put me through it. What you got? And it definitely did. And I lost everything and was stripped of everything, and most intensely my psychological and emotional health. And now here we are, and everything makes so much sense to me. And so anyway, I feel like these songs that I wrote back in that time, I think the audience and people might be a little bit more receptive to them today. And I know that there's two things going on right now in the world. There's people like me who are really rising up and thriving and being in a blessed world from the darkness that we maybe were born into. And then there's the other flip side of the experience of people, you know, getting really sucked into the doom and gloom of the news and the media, and their lives are getting progressively worse, and they're just kind of getting stuck in that. And I just know that there's a lot of people out there who have this and built up rage to the atrocities happening, or that have been happening in our planet and in our world, to the racism and division and wars and bombings and trafficking and assaults. And I think it's just a little bit more maybe prominent collectively right now, because it's finally being pushed to them through the mainstream media for the first time. And so that's creating this sense of frustration and rage within people towards the horrors of the world, which is I say all that because it's understandable. And my point is, I felt like I was at the peak of my rage and my frustration and my angsty energy towards it all in 2020 and 2021. And so this music kind of reflects that. And I think it makes sense for it to exist and for it to be put out. And, you know, I'll let it be what it is. But I appreciate you saying what you said about my music and my lyrics and what I wrote, because when I started acting, I kind of took on the mindset. And one of the things that drew me to acting is like in the music industry and mainstream and stuff, to get big or whatever, like a lot of what you're told to do is to basically put yourself in a box, become a character, pick 2 or 3 things that
So they can
you
market
can
you.
be known for. Yes, for marketing purposes. But really, you're trying to appeal to the masses is limiting yourself. I'd rather be true. And so I got frustrated with, I felt uncomfortable really with marketing myself as a musician, because every musician and other people I was around were marketing the character that they were as a musician. And I was like, I'm just this guy. Like I'm writing about what I went through. I don't care about the rest.
That has almost taken the place. That takes the first slot, and then after that comes, okay, what's the talent like? What's the message? What's the content? But before all that, it's the look, it's the is this going to appeal to a younger audience, or what's the demographics? What demographic is going to gravitate to them? And you want to make yourself look this way or that way because it's going to open you up to a larger audience, and it's definitely pulling that individual
Right.
away from who the hell they are. They're just now just trying to appeal to the masses, and it doesn't matter how much of themselves they got to sell. They're getting pimped out by the algorithms now too, because you're doing things just to appease the algorithms to get pushed in the top slot.
Right. And so I would look at like, the even musicians I like are the biggest musicians out there, and they'd have to go do a press tour or give an interview on Jimmy Fallon or something. And it's like they have to be the character that their music fits and that they're of the audience that they've cultivated, because a lot of money is involved in that to keep that up. A lot of people's pockets are invested in that, and you're contractually obligated to fulfill that. Whereas I would look at actors, and they would be doing a press tour for their art, and they're talking about, yeah, this character, really has a lot of this in him and that, and I really brought forth this because I decided to do this with him because of this, and his backstory with it, and this is how I prepared. But they're saying all this as just the dude that they are. They're an actor. They're not the character, and there's a clear understanding from the audience of the distinction and separation between them. And so I like that it's more understood and clear cut that like, yo, that was a character, and now I'm talking. And because I felt like, I guess, in my music and in my music videos and some of my art and stuff, I say things that I don't literally mean, but some people take things super literally. Like, I'm very playful. So I just felt like I could be more authentic. And so I realized, okay, like music is what I do for myself. It's therapeutic for me. And I've been in a place in my life where I quit music, and that's crazy. And I'll never quit music again. I don't care if anybody listens to me. I don't care if I get a single play. And I kind of stopped marketing it that much altogether. And the moment I did that, and I was like, acting is what I can do for the public beyond myself. I can be of service by being able to read this character. I haven't read a character synopsis that I don't think, man, I know exactly what that guy's feeling and going through. And that brings me to tears, whether it's good or bad, whether he's a horrible person or a lovely person. I'm like, it sends me back to my own life. And I'm like, damn. And then I bring that through. And the moment that I started doing that, and that clicked for me, and that I was comfortable with that, my music got a lot more attention, and my music got a lot better, and people liked it more. And I still don't really like, I share it. Obviously I post it, people can hear it. And the last probably like few months or so, that's been primarily what I have to share is music. I've been making music. Yeah, and ultimately I kind of knew, okay, there's probably going to be a point where people might realize I'm pretty good at music too, and I'll be able to
Right.
to do both, or have an audience in both mediums, because I've had some people kind of say like, man, this is surprisingly good. I'm like, well, this is what I do. I do this. I've been doing this. I've been doing music since
Yeah.
I was a kid. I just haven't had a great chance or opportunity to showcase it to people. And now I don't really focus on making sure that you know it. But in a way, I think it works out better for me because people know now that I'm a good actor and I can be a part of their productions or whatever, and they can see me on film. But then all of a sudden they're like, wait, this is a song? Like, oh, you do? I didn't know you did music. Oh, damn, this is really good. I'm like, yeah. I
Yeah,
do it all.
that was something that I was able to tell. As much as I like a dope beat, I'm really one for lyrics, for the delivery, for the cadence, how everything is pocketed into just the overall way somebody can express themselves. They can poetically flow on a beat and it have content and it have some substance and it has something that's real and genuine. And that is exactly what I got from that song. And I was like, damn, this is, I could tell that this isn't something that you just woke up and started doing last night because you're talking about the whole marketing and how people have to do certain things to get to a certain place. I mean, I'm just going to say that there's a lot of artists right now that seem to be getting, we're talking mainstream. I know there's a lot of underground artists that have talent and a lot of people aren't going to hear about them unless they do their own digging and research. But some of the ones that get in the spotlight and the shine and they have the most dumbed down things to say and it's repetitive and it's really more destructive and it's negative. I mean, I was at a time and a place where that was something that's all I was looking for. But now a bit older, you hear about these artists, if you even want to call them that. I mean, they're like cookie cutters and they look like, I would call some of them even industry plants, and they're used just to lead people in a certain direction. But you hear about these, where did they come from?
Yeah, you could say they have more in common with politicians than they do musicians.
Yeah. And you're just like, where did they come from? How did they all of a sudden have a following? Like, is this genuine? Is this authentic or is this manufactured? I started to catch on to a lot of these artists and I'm listening to interviews just out of curiosity, like, where did they come from? How did they get this fan base? Is this real? Is this manufactured? And then the majority of them are saying, oh, yeah, I just started rapping last year. Or I just started taking it serious last year. That makes sense. If you want to go down a conspiratorial rabbit hole, but I mean, they just pop out of nowhere. They have a huge fan base and they're talking about nothing but death, destruction, and negativity. And these are the ones that are getting pushed. And it's almost like they're force feeding it to the public, where you have someone like yourself or artists that have you have talent. I mean, you're good at what you're doing. Just a couple of tracks, I could say, like, you have a polished craft, and it's something that I know I'm not the only one that when they hear it, they can say, damn, this is some good music. This is some good quality music. It's not fast food. This is something that is palatable. I said all that just to say that when listening to you, I was able to tell, like, yeah, it sounds like he's been doing it for a while. This isn't something that he didn't just wake up yesterday and say, I feel like I'm going to make a song today.
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate it. So last weekend on the 7th, I released a song called Wiser Than Older. Yeah, and I ain't talking Villanova. Corona, oh Corona, 2020, you was solar. Was supposed to have a good year, you had to bring the horror. Bitch, you be fixing the scene over at the polars. Learning better ways to better days with wind, water, and solar. Corona, oh Corona, 2020, you was solar. 3 quick months is all it took for you to fuck with the world order. Honestly, it's probably on every one of our shoulders. Hope you spend your quarantine getting wiser, not just older. Hey.
What are you going to do when some super virus comes along that turns your vital organs?
It's on all platforms, on Spotify, Apple Music, all that, under my name, Beami. And I wrote it in March, April 2020, and at the peak of the pandemic, the shutdown. And it's kind of like a lighthearted commentary on the pandemic that traumatized us all. Mm-hmm. So it's actually kind of like, to me, more interesting to listen to it now than it was then, because like we're so much more removed from it. And in that reflection aspect of it, I think a lot of people have different opinions of that time than they did when they were going through it. Certainly. Mm-hmm. And then today, I dropped 2 more singles. One is called Bad. I also wrote it in like either 2019 or 2020. And I think, like the words can be weaponized and stuff and twisted. And like, I remember there's a scene in the movie Glory Road, which is about the Texas Western basketball team. The coach Don Haskins was the first coach to start all 5 black players for the game, national championship. Anyway, there's a scene in there where it's like the black players talking to the white players. Like the black player calls him bad, and he's like, no, he's like, but bad. So bad is good, and the black player's like, yeah, bad is good, man. And I kind of like took inspiration of that and wrote a song called Bad. And it's like, my intention with it is like everyone, whether you're homeless, whether you're broke and struggling, whether you're living in a penthouse in New York, whether you're single, whether you're taken, whether you're married with children, whatever walk of life you are, whether you're a bird, a pigeon, like whatever, like you're bad, and bad is good.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I'm all for like, I want people to feel good about themselves. So that was kind of it. And then on the flip side of that, I released another single today called IDKU. And it's kind of the antithesis to that. It's like a very much like FU song in a way. It's, don't act like you've been supporting me this whole time when, so don't act surprised if you come around now. I act like I have no idea who you are, is basically the gist of that. I think a lot of people relate to that or have some similar emotions to that. So I thought they were also my ex's least favorite songs that I ever did. So I thought, what a better day to release them than today. And
Valentine's Day.
Yeah. And then on the 22nd, which is Sunday, a week from tomorrow, I'm releasing a 7-song EP full of tracks from that time in my life. Yeah, they're pretty deep.
Okay, so you're on a releasing spree then within this last month.
Yeah, that's correct. So the EP comes out on the 22nd. A remix of one of the songs on the EP will come out the next week on the 28th. And then regarding film and stuff, a music video that I starred in and edited for a band here in Austin is premiering on Saturday, March 14th. We're having like a live premiere and a Q&A, but then I would think that the video will come out sometime after that on YouTube or something. So I'll be sharing that. Yeah, and then I also just got cast in an upcoming TV series that I'm not gonna speak on fully yet. I'm gonna let them roll it out, but it's gonna be pretty cool and really special, and also kind of related to music. So I hope that we're able to continue to inspire like a bunch of young girls to pick up instruments and play music too through this show. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. You got a lot going on. That's real good to hear. And everything, I'll link it in the show notes. So I know you have a few links in your email contact, but whatever you want me to include in the show notes when I publish the episode. So anybody listening and they want to listen to your music, or they want to check out the roles that you're involved with, or any and everything that you're doing, they have access to it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It's if people can remember how to spell my name, then it's really easy to find me, I think, on most things. But my website is beami.earth. So Beami. My name is like I tell people like a light beam or like a laser beam with an I at the end. Beami. Some people add an E. It's cute, but and you're free to, but you're not gonna find me if you add an E for Beami. But my website is beami.earth instead of .com. So like the planet we live on, my name.earth. And you can find everything right there on my front page, linked to my Spotify, my Apple Music, my Instagram. And then all my socials, I have Instagram, and my YouTube channel is at Beami Not You. So my name, Beami, not you, Notyou. And then, yeah, I'm sure you'll link everything too. So.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I really, really appreciate your time. I took up a lot of your time today. I know you said you have some things going on a little bit later. You want to run some errands and take care of all that, but I do appreciate you setting some time aside and breaking down some of your story and your struggles, your challenges, the pain, the suffering, but then also the lessons that you learned, the cold and hungry nights to the warmer, bathing in the sunlight and still appreciating life. You still have promise and looking forward to what the future holds. And I think it was offline that you mentioned that I'm someone who embraces and enjoys the unknown and the unfamiliar. That's the complete opposite of what I would say myself. I'll include myself in a bunch of a lot of people that we can be afraid of the unknown. We're afraid of the darkness, of not being able to see what's to come. And so that was also good to hear because it kind of put some things back in line for me. And yeah, it was just overall just real refreshing and real inspiring. Just me listening to what you've been through, where you're at today, what has made you, what has almost broken you, what probably did break you, but how you're putting the pieces back together the way you want to and creating the life that you deserve and you know you're capable of having and building. So appreciate your honesty, your openness, your vulnerability. And if you have anything you want to leave off with, Beami, go right ahead. Feel free, my friend.
I mean, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for doing the show. Yeah, you brought up me bringing up the unknown. I appreciate you bringing that back up. Like I've always said, like change was my first friend. If change didn't exist, then I would have been born into a very dark and chaotic world that I would not have survived in. So the unknown is infinite and abundant and formless. Therefore, it has unlimited potential and it can be anything, and which means it can be a fucking amazing. It can be incredible. It can be so incredible that you don't even can even actually even make up something that is as incredible as what it is because it's unknown. You don't know it. And there were times and spaces and places in my life where the known was very clear. The known was violence and anger and hate and suicide and death and fear. But the unknown exists. It's out there. So some days that was all I had. That was all I could believe in. But at least that exists. It exists for anyone out there. Some people want change, but they also have some good things. So it's difficult for them to be comfortable with making changes that might change the things that they like and are comfortable with in order to change the things that they don't like. Whereas I feel, like I said, really blessed because it was very clear to me there wasn't a lot that I wanted to stay the same. It was very clear that it sucked. So the unknown is an ally for sure.
That's right. Yeah. It's untapped potential.
Don't decide for the unknown what the unknown can do for you.
It's a beautiful take. And that's a great way to top this off with, again, Beami, appreciate you. I'm going to link everything in the show notes and all the best to you and what you're doing. Just keep striving for higher, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you to everyone out there listening. I'm sure we'll see more of each other along the way.
I hope you all enjoyed today's conversation with Beami. If there's anything that you'd like to add to the conversation, feel free to reach out to us on any of the platforms. Leave your thoughts. Share your own experiences. You know, this is a two-way street. Each one teach one, and to find more about Beami, to log on and lock on to what he's doing. If you'd like to work with him, if you'd like to collaborate with him, or if you just like to say some warm words to him and thank him for sharing a bit of his story and his journey, you can find him at beami.earth, beami.earth. He's a writer, he's an actor, he's a musician, and most of all, he's a unique human being exploring and enjoying this unique human experience. A few things actually stuck out to me while I was speaking with Beami, and just listening to him, unpack and unravel some of the dark times, some of the ups, the downs, the falls and the hiccups, was him coming to terms with realizing his own self-worth, his own potential, the power of perspective, and embracing the unknown, which almost seems to have God timing, because I've been reading a bit of Eckhart Tolle, and he had a quote that fits into that line of thought. It rides that wavelength. He says, when you become comfortable with uncertainty, infinite possibilities open up in your life. And that's what Beami was alluding to at the very end of our talk. Beami was abused. He was neglected. He was manipulated. He was trodden on, abused by his biological mother, his stepmother, in the first true long committed relationship. He lost his best friend, his father, his hero, his everything. And he felt that dark night of the soul. To not have, to enjoy some stability and then to lose it again, the ups and downs that you heard him talk about and share. And despite that, when we had our little correspondences offline, one thing that stuck out to me and I'd like to share, hopefully he doesn't mind, is him saying that he is the luckiest person in the universe. And that again goes back to the power of perspective. He refused to, although he had many reasons to use it as a crutch, to play the victim, to be the victim, to always use this, that, and the other for an excuse as to why he doesn't have, why he can't be, why he can't succeed. But he says, believes, and knows that he is the luckiest person in the universe. Rock on, Beami. Keep doing you. I look forward to hearing more of your music. We appreciate your words and you sharing some of your story. Keep shining that good light and being the salt to the earth. Beami.earth is where you can find him. My brother, you are a giant amongst us. Let me take a few minutes to thank everybody far and wide, however you're listening to the show, wherever you're listening from. We appreciate you each and every time checking in with us. If you'd like to share a story or an experience or a thought of your own, you know where to find us, giantsamongustus.org. I wish you all peace, strength, wisdom, love, and blessings as you walk your own path. Let me share something that has its place today. It comes from Abraham Maslow in his book, Toward a Psychology of Being. He writes, the question of desirable grief and pain, or the necessity for it, must also be faced. Is growth and self-fulfillment possible at all without pain and grief and sorrow and turmoil? If these are to some extent necessary and unavoidable, then to what extent? If grief and pain are sometimes necessary for growth of the person, then we must learn not to protect people from them automatically as if they were always bad. Sometimes they may be good and desirable in view of the ultimate good consequences. Not allowing people to go through their pain and protecting them from it may turn out to be a kind of overprotection, which in turn implies a certain lack of respect for the integrity and the intrinsic nature and the future development of the individual. You all be safe out there. You all be sane. Be the change you wish to see. And as a reminder, if anybody would like to be a part of the show and share their story, or maybe a story of someone in your life that has impacted you in a positive way, you can always reach out to us via email. We'd be happy to connect. Until next time, and very soon. Peace.
Looking for a sign to know I'm on the right road. Ain't seen no sign since Jericho.